Right now, you're not thinking about temperature. A wall is keeping the wind off you. A layer of insulated fabric is keeping your skin at the exact temperature it wants to be at. Somewhere out of sight, a heating system is quietly running, and a kitchen full of stored food means you're never more than a short walk from your next few thousand calories. None of that is your body doing the work. It's everything built around it, and none of it existed yet. Take it all away, and you'd assume your own body could handle the rest. It can't, not even close. You're standing outside, at night, no coat, no fire, no walls, bare skin, snow past your ankles, wind moving through it, somewhere across the tundra of Ice Age Europe, 20,000 years ago. In the far north, that air was routinely 25 degrees Fahrenheit colder than the coldest night you've ever actually stood outside in. Exposed skin can start showing frostbite before you'd even feel it happening. Every system currently keeping you alive without your input just got switched off at once, and the body underneath it was never built to fill the gap. Not because you're weak, because you're the wrong animal for this specific problem. Humans are, biologically speaking, a tropical animal. Thin skin, sparse hair, no thick layer of blubber like a seal, no dense fur like a wolf. None of the built-in heating system that actually cold-adapted animals come with as standard equipment. And it's not just you. Even our closest cold climate relatives struggled with this. Neanderthals, who lived through ice ages for hundreds of thousands of years, show real signs of cold adaptation: shorter limbs to hold in heat, broader chests, a wide nasal cavity built to warm freezing air on the way in, possibly even specialized fat tissue for generating heat internally. Biologically, they had a better factory-installed heating system than we do, and they still went extinct. So the wall, the insulated layer, the heating system, the stocked kitchen, none of that was ever going to come standard. Every piece of it had to be invented by a species that showed up to the Ice Age with no natural advantage for surviving it. The first thing that got invented was the wall. Not a literal one, a portable, temporary version of it. Archaeologists have found burnt bone and ash layers inside Wonderwork Cave in South Africa dating back roughly 1 million years, some of the oldest solid evidence of controlled fire anywhere. A fire does what a wall does. It draws a hard line between where the cold gets to act on you and where it doesn't. But a wall you build once and a fire you have to keep alive are different problems. You can't carry a campfire on your back while tracking an animal for 6 hours. You can't build one big enough to keep a sleeping body warm all night while it burns down to embers at the edge of a group that has to sleep exposed regardless. Fire solved a fixed point in space. It never solved a moving body. That gap, the one fire couldn't reach, is what made the next invention necessary: a second skin you could wear. For a long time, early humans in cold regions likely just draped themselves in loose hides, functional but full of gaps where wind gets in, closer to a blanket than clothing. What actually changed the equation was the needle. The oldest known eyed needle, found in Siberia, is roughly 50,000 years old. At a 20,000-year-old winter camp in Austria, archaeologists found dozens of needles alongside reindeer remains. Animals clearly killed in winter for their thick coats specifically, and stitched into tight, layered, weatherproof clothing built the same way your own winter gear is. Layer over layer, each layer doing a different job, sealed tight enough that heat stops leaking out through the gaps. A needle sounds small. What it actually did was turn a draped hide into something close to what you're wearing right now. And that shell is what let people push into the coldest, most extreme parts of the world, deep into Siberia, and eventually across the land bridge into the Americas, territory that would have killed anyone still relying on loose fur. Clothing solved the moving body. It never solved the sleeping one, the actual wall your house gives you, the one you close a door on and stop thinking about. For that, people built houses out of the biggest material available on a treeless glacial landscape, each other's prey. At a site called Mezhirish in what's now Ukraine, archaeologists found circular dwellings built from roughly 150 mammoth bones, arranged with real structural intent, a hearth near the center, tools and debris scattered exactly where you'd expect people to actually live. Recent dating work suggests one of these structures wasn't a one-season shelter thrown together in an emergency. It appears to have been maintained and reoccupied for centuries, straight through the harshest stretch of the last ice age. That's not improvisation. That's the same basic decision behind the building you're sitting in right now. Something worth investing real effort into because you intend to keep coming back to it. And none of this, the fire, the clothing, the shelter, runs without fuel, which is the one part of this system you still haven't replaced with a machine. Cold climate survival is expensive in calories, and the evidence backs that up. Cut marks on thick leg bones show people deliberately smashing them open for marrow, one of the most calorie-dense foods available in the entire environment. In a world with no stored grain and no guaranteed next meal, fat wasn't a treat. It was the heating bill, paid in food instead of currency, and there was no skipping a payment. By the time you reach one particular burial site, clothing had stopped being just about survival. Sunghir, in Russia, roughly 34,000 years old, two boys, buried head-to-head, were found covered in more than 10,000 mammoth ivory beads sewn directly onto tailored clothing. A nearby adult burial had roughly 3,000 more. This wasn't daily survival gear, it was ceremonial. Clothing had stopped being just the thing standing between a person and the cold. It had become significant enough, personal enough, central enough to who that person was, that it followed them into the ground rather than getting handed down to someone still alive and cold. So picture that same exposed, bare-skinned scene from the beginning again. You, standing in the snow, every modern system switched off. Nothing about your body changed since we started. You still don't have the fur, the blubber, the factory-installed advantage a genuinely cold-adapted animal, or even a Neanderthal, would have carried into that same night. What's different is everything humans built to replace what the body couldn't do on its own. A wall made of fire, kept alive for 1,000,000 years, a second skin stitched tight enough to wear like the jacket in your closet, a house engineered from the largest bones on the landscape, meant to be lived in for generations, not just survived in for one. And fuel, hoarded like currency because it functionally was. You didn't survive the Ice Age because your body was built for it. You survived it because you kept building the parts your body was missing. And you're still living inside the version of that system your ancestors left you right now without even noticing it's there.